Most women have, at some point, found themselves ensnared in the perplexing dance of pursuit, a ritual as ancient as humanity itself, yet one that, in its modern iteration, often leads to an erosion of the self rather than genuine connection. The prevalent wisdom whispers of attracting versus chasing, implying a dichotomy where one path leads to effortless love and the other to desperate yearning. Yet, this simplistic binary often overlooks the profound psychological currents that dictate these dynamics, the unseen forces that compel us to chase what eludes us and repel what offers itself freely. It is not merely about action or inaction, but about the deep, often unconscious, narratives playing out within the psyche of both man and woman. The modern woman, armed with self-help mantras and dating rules, still finds herself bewildered when the man who seemed so promising suddenly retreats, or when the one who pursues her with fervor ultimately feels lacking. The truth is, the myth of chasing versus attracting is merely a superficial layer over a much deeper Jungian drama involving shadow projections, the animus and anima, and the relentless quest for individuation. Consider the woman who finds herself perpetually drawn to the emotionally unavailable man. She, perhaps, embodies the archetype of the rescuer, the healer, the one who believes her love is potent enough to mend broken wings. This is not a conscious choice, but a compulsion born from her own unexamined shadow. Her own unmet needs for unconditional love, perhaps stemming from early childhood experiences, project onto the distant, enigmatic man. He becomes the vessel for her unconscious desire to prove her worth, to finally earn the love she believes she lacked. His unavailability, far from being a deterrent, becomes a magnetic challenge. It feeds her ego's narrative that true love must be hard-won, that she must earn her place in the heart of another. She chases not him, but the idealized version of herself she believes she can become by fixing him. This pursuit is not a testament to her strength, but a mirror reflecting her own unintegrated wounds. She is, in essence, chasing her own shadow, believing that by bringing light to his darkness, she will illuminate her own. Conversely, the man who chases with relentless fervor often carries his own deeply ingrained psychological baggage. He may be driven by an unconscious fear of abandonment, an inability to tolerate solitude, or a profound need for external validation to shore up a fragile sense of self. His pursuit is not an expression of genuine desire for connection, but a desperate attempt to fill an internal void. He sees in the object of his pursuit not a unique individual, but a functional object, a source of supply for his own ego. He projects onto her the anima, his own undeveloped feminine principle, believing that she holds the key to his emotional completion. His incessant calls, his grand gestures, his declarations of undying love are not romantic overtures but desperate attempts to possess and control, to bind her to his own incomplete narrative. He is the hunter, but his quarry is not love, it is the illusion of control over his own inner chaos. He mistakes possession for connection, and the woman, if she is not conscious of her own boundaries, can easily become engulfed in his unexamined needs. The true path to attraction, therefore, is not a strategy of aloofness or a performance of disinterest. It is an internal alchemy, a rigorous process of self-excavation. It demands that you confront your own shadows, those unacknowledged aspects of your personality that dictate your choices in love. What are the wounds that compel you to seek validation outside yourself? What are the unfulfilled desires that drive you to chase or to be chased, rather than to simply be? This journey into the depths of your psyche is often uncomfortable, for it requires you to dismantle the protective structures of your ego. You must ask yourself, am I genuinely attracted to this person, or am I attracted to the idea of what they represent? A rescue project, a source of validation, an escape from my own solitude. The Stoics, in their profound wisdom, understood the futility of seeking control over external events. Epictetus taught that we must distinguish between what is within our power and what is not. Your external circumstances, including the actions of another, are beyond your control. Your internal world, your reactions, your perceptions are entirely within your dominion. This is the cornerstone of true attraction, the cultivation of an inner world so rich, so self-sufficient, that you no longer need another to complete you, but rather choose to share your completeness. The unexamined life, as Socrates famously declared, is not worth living. In the context of relationships, the unexamined self is perpetually condemned to repeat the same painful patterns. The woman who continually finds herself in relationships with men who are emotionally distant or perpetually demanding is not simply unlucky. She is operating under the influence of an unconscious script. She may be projecting her own unacknowledged needs for control onto the man who attempts to control her, or her own fear of intimacy onto the man who maintains an emotional distance. Her shadow, the hidden parts of herself she has disowned, is playing a pivotal role in these recurring dramas. Until she integrates these disavowed aspects, her own need for autonomy, her own capacity for self-nurturing, her own power, she will continue to attract partners who mirror her internal disequilibrium. It is a harsh truth, but a liberating one. The external world of your relationships is a precise reflection of your internal landscape. If your landscape is barren, you will attract those who seek to exploit its emptiness. If it is fertile, you will attract those who wish to cultivate its abundance. The journey of individuation, of becoming the most complete version of yourself, is not merely a spiritual pursuit. It is the most potent form of attraction. It is the silent, magnetic force that draws to you not what you chase, but what truly resonates with the authentic, fully integrated essence of your being. This is where the myth dissolves and true connection begins. The hero's journey, a narrative we often apply to masculine quests for glory, is just as profoundly relevant to the feminine path towards psychological sovereignty. The modern woman, in her quest for love and partnership, is not simply on a superficial dating circuit. She is on a pilgrimage toward her own inner wholeness. She must confront the dragons of her past, the specters of her unintegrated self, before she can truly connect with another from a place of authenticity. The myth of chasing and attracting is the siren song that promises a shortcut, a set of rules to manipulate the external world, when the real work is an internal excavation. It is the ego's desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable, to force a relationship into being rather than allowing a genuine connection to emerge from a place of shared, mutual respect and value. The woman who understands this ceases to see a man as a prize to be won or a puzzle to be solved. She sees him as a fellow traveler on the path, a soul with his own journey, his own shadows, and his own quest for individuation. But what happens when the shadow of the man, his unintegrated animus, meets the unintegrated anima of the woman? A chaotic and often painful dance ensues. He, the man with an underdeveloped sense of self, projects his need for nurturing and validation onto her. He sees her not as an individual, but as a symbol of the Great Mother, the source of all comfort and unconditional love. He may pursue her relentlessly, not out of genuine love, but out of a desperate, unconscious need to be saved from his own emotional wilderness. She, in turn, may be operating under the shadow of the rescuer archetype, a woman who has learned to derive her self-worth from her ability to fix or save others. She accepts his projection, believing that her purpose in the relationship is to be the source of his healing. This is the tragic comedy of the codependent dynamic, a shard fantasy where two incomplete halves attempt to form a whole, only to find themselves perpetually locked in a state of mutual need and psychological enmeshment. The more she gives, the more he demands, and the more he demands, the more she believes her purpose is to give. It is a cycle of spiritual starvation, where both parties are consuming from an empty well, and the more they drink, the thirstier they become. This is where the Stoic philosophy of internal locus of control becomes not just a philosophical concept, but a survival tool. Seneca spoke of the importance of the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind impervious to external chaos. For the woman on her journey, this means building an emotional and psychological sanctuary within herself. She must cultivate a sense of worth and completeness that is not dependent on the attention, validation, or affection of any man. This is the profound shift from a state of chasing to one of attracting. But attraction, in this sense, is not a strategy. It is a state of being. It is the natural consequence of a woman who is so profoundly at peace with herself, so deeply rooted in her own value, that she radiates a quiet, unshakable confidence. She is not performing, not playing a game, and not waiting for a man to choose her. She is simply living her life, pursuing her purpose, cultivating her passions, and in doing so, she becomes a magnetic force. She no longer needs a man to define her or to make her feel complete. She is already a complete work of art, and a man's admiration becomes not a source of her worth, but a welcome addition to an already abundant life. The woman who has done her shadow work knows that the man who is drawn to her from a place of healthy desire is not drawn to her because of a game she is playing, but because he recognizes in her a kindred spirit. He sees her as a whole person, not an object of his projection. His attraction is not based on his need to be saved, but on his genuine appreciation for her essence. This is the sacred dance of two individuated souls, two people who have walked through their own personal hells, faced their own demons, and emerged with a profound respect for the arduous journey of the human heart. They do not seek to fill each other's voids, but to enrich each other's abundance. They are not codependent partners in a shared fantasy, but sovereign beings in a shared reality. To break the cycle of chasing and being chased, you must first stop. Stop running after the man who retreats. Stop entertaining the man who relentlessly pursues without substance. And in that stillness, turn your gaze inward. What are you truly seeking? Is it love, or is it a feeling of validation? Is it connection, or is it a sense of control? Is it a partner, or is it a reflection of your own idealized self? The answers lie not in the latest dating advice, but in the deepest, most sacred chambers of your own heart. They are the keys to a freedom that no man can give you, and a worth that no man can take away. The modern feminine journey is not a quest to find a man who will complete her, but to become a woman who is already whole. This is the profound reframe that shatters the old, tired paradigms of chasing and attracting. The external world, with all its chaotic and often disappointing relationship dynamics, is but a reflection of the unintegrated aspects of our own psyche. The man who is emotionally unavailable is a mirror, not of his flaw, but of your own unacknowledged fear of intimacy. The man who is perpetually chasing you is a mirror of your own desire for validation, for the ego-driven thrill of being pursued. Until you cease to project your unfulfilled needs and desires onto another person, you will continue to engage in these painful, repetitive cycles. Seneca's wisdom rings true here. We are not to be victims of our passions, but masters of our minds. Your emotions, your desire to be chosen, your fear of abandonment, your need for validation are not your enemies. They are signals, messengers from your unconscious, guiding you toward the inner work that is necessary for your liberation. Consider the archetype of the sovereign woman. She is not a woman who has found the perfect man. She is a woman who has found her own center. She is her own source of security, her own validator, her own hero. She has confronted her shadow, made peace with her past, and integrated the fragmented parts of her psyche. She understands that a man, no matter how wonderful, cannot give her what she has not first cultivated within herself. Her power lies not in her ability to manipulate a man into desiring her, but in her unshakable belief in her own worth. When she enters a relationship, it is not from a place of neediness or desperation, but from a place of abundance. She is not seeking a man to complete her narrative, but a partner with whom she can co-create a new one. This is the true meaning of attraction. It is a resonance between two souls who are already complete, a dance of two suns rather than two planets orbiting a shared void. The most potent and misunderstood aspect of this journey is the role of solitude. In a world that equates singleness with failure and constant social engagement with success, the act of deliberate solitude is a radical rebellion. It is in the quiet moments, away from the noise and the external pressures, that you can hear the whispers of your own soul. This is where the work of individuation truly begins. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote of the importance of retreating into oneself, of finding a sanctuary within your own mind. This is not a state of loneliness, but of profound self-communion. It is in this inner stillness that you begin to unearth the hidden motives behind your relational choices. You ask yourself the difficult questions. What am I avoiding by constantly seeking the attention of others? What parts of myself do I neglect when I am consumed with chasing a man? What would it mean to truly be enough, all on my own? The answers to these questions are the keys to your emotional freedom. The woman who learns to be her own source of joy, her own source of peace, and her own source of fulfillment becomes an emotional fortress. She is not easily swayed by the fleeting attention of a man. His absence does not break her, and his presence does not define her. She knows, deep in her bones, that her happiness is not contingent on his actions or his affections. She is the master of her own emotional domain, and this is a power that no man can diminish. This is the ultimate act of attraction. It is not a performance, but a state of being so deeply rooted in self-possession that it becomes a magnetic force, drawing to you those who are drawn not to a need, but to a profound sense of presence and wholeness. This is the end of the myth and the beginning of your truth. This process of individuation, as Jung described it, is the most profound journey you will ever undertake. It is the lifelong psychological task of becoming your true, authentic self. It is the conscious integration of the disparate parts of your psyche, the light and the shadow, the conscious and the unconscious, the masculine and the feminine principles within you. This is not a journey to be taken lightly or with a partner. It is a solitary pilgrimage that prepares you for a higher form of relationship. The woman who has begun this work is not looking for a man to complete her. She is looking for a man who has done his own work and is walking his own path of individuation. She is seeking not a half, but a whole. This is the point where the distinction between chasing and attracting becomes not a strategy, but an inevitability. When you are rooted in your own self-worth, when your inner world is your primary source of validation, you no longer have the emotional need to pursue or be pursued in the desperate, ego-driven sense. You become a stable, unshakable center. You are the still point in the turning world, and in that stillness, a different kind of man is drawn to you. He is not drawn to you because he sees a void he can fill, but because he recognizes a light he wishes to be near. His interest is not a projection of his own emotional wounds, but an expression of his genuine desire to connect with a woman who is already complete. This is the sacred dance of two sovereign beings, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose, not on codependent need. The final and most liberating step is the cultivation of emotional detachment from external validation. This is not the cold, indifferent detachment of a robot, but the warm, centered detachment of a sage. It is the ability to witness a man's behavior, his interest, his disinterest, his commitment, his withdrawal, without allowing it to dictate your sense of worth or your emotional state. It is a form of stoic equanimity, a profound understanding that you have power over your own mind, not over the actions or opinions of others. You can release the outcome, because you know your happiness is not contingent on it. The man who chooses to be with you is a bonus, an enhancement to an already rich and fulfilling life. The man who chooses to walk away is a lesson, a signal that a narrative that no longer serves your growth has come to a close. Both are gifts, and neither has the power to diminish your essence. This is the ultimate freedom, the end of the chase. You no longer need to perform, to strategize, or to win. You are not a damsel to be rescued, a mother to be relied upon, or a prize to be won. You are simply you, a woman, on a hero's journey, in the process of becoming fully, irrevocably, and beautifully herself. You are the source of your own light, and the world, in its awe, can only turn to face the sun. End.